Hey, by the way, tonight's game, New York wins that outright.
You know he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports show for December 2nd. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. Absolutely loaded episode for you today. My boy David from Denver is this week's special guest. Really excited to pick his brain about this loaded NFL slate. And Gino from DRF will have his horse racing by the day. Before we get all that, I'd like to say thank you to the sponsor of the show, PropX. Guys, go there, download the app. Use promo code ETOFT21. That way they know old Uncle Rico sent you. Now, let's shift our attention over to the loaded card at Aqueduct this week and see what Gino's horse racing by the day is.
Saturday, it's a big day over at Aqueduct. Let's take a look at a race on the Aqueduct card for Saturday, December the 6th. Now, one of the bigger races on the card is the Cigar Mile. That's going to go as race number 10. Look through this field. It's a grade 2 race. There's no real monsters in here. Nobody that scares the heck out of you. Phileas Fogg, Bishop's Bay, they're going to both take some money from the outside. Both of them are solid. They're logical. Horse I think is really interesting in here is Doc Sullivan. Doc Sullivan is drawn down on the inside, comes off of a really nice win on a sloppy racetrack last time out. But this is a horse who should be perfect at the 1 mile trip. And you'll see Doc Sullivan has a couple victories going the mile, proven at Aqueduct. I think should sit a really nice trip down on the inside, saving all the ground. Look at the last 4 races. You have a victory back in July, then behind Bookham Dano, and some of the best sprinters in the Forgo. Next up in the Vosburg, thought ran very well that day again, when behind Patriot Spirit and Crazy Mason. I just think inside, saving all the ground, gets a nice trip in here. Doc Sullivan is the play for me. Saturday at Aqueduct, race number 10. Doc Sullivan is the number 1 in there. Best of luck to everyone playing the races this weekend. Make sure to tune into this show every week for the best in sports from Eric.
That's my boy Gino. Check him out at drf.com. Doing great things there. Has a podcast which is absolutely on fire. Talks to jockeys, trainers, and everything. Really get an inside scoop. Now, let's welcome this week's special guest, the king of the pumpkin patch, the Gus to my Sean, my boy David, a.k.a. Better DP21. David, your mic is muted, my man. What's going on, dude?
What's up, brother? Can't ask for a better intro. I don't even know how to top that with Uncle Rico here. Other than just being Kingslayer when it comes to making a Thanksgiving turkey is what I hear.
Dude, I'll tell you what, dude. So I learned to do 2 things in college: drink and problem solve.
There you go.
Okay, that's what I learned how to do in college. And I was drinking and I was cooking like a mofo. Like, my parents are a little banged up with some stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, man, interjected that bitch with some butter, dude. Threw that fucker in the stove and just did work, man. Dude, I didn't even tell you about the fucking sheet pan thing I made, dude, with like sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts, chicken
there you go.
sausage,
now we're talking.
Garlic, some shallots, a little honey. Like, grated a little fucking Parmesan cheese.
Now we're talking.
And then I'm not a big pie connoisseur. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this place up by me called the Apple House, which is just insane. So I go there, I get one of their frozen apple pies, and I get a pumpkin pie. But their apple pie was I was so confused because it came in a brown bag.
Right.
So I had to cook it inside the brown bag.
Oh, shit.
And I was I was petrified I was going to start a fucking fire in my parents' place, dude. I had no idea what the fuck. I was am I supposed to cook in this? I was Googling. I was asking Chat GPT. Fucking nailed that bitch like a motherfucker, dude. Everything on point. I did so good. My fucking parents told me I have to cook Christmas dinner, which makes it. I don't want to cook again, dude. I just want to eat and drink.
I get it though. I've been there. You know, I'm also, you know, the king when it comes to sweet potato casserole myself. So I know my family around Christmas time is going to be begging for me to make that since they missed out on it this Thanksgiving, since I was away visiting the girls, you know, family out in LA for the holiday. So, you know, living life on the road, it's tough, man. It's tough. But I did show up with a pumpkin and apple crisp again. So we were aligned on the pies for sure.
Little apple crisp. It's funny, like my dad used to make this killer apple crisp, and to this day, my sister and I can't agree. There's one piece left, and I think I was like in 5th grade. I was in 6th grade, and she was in 2nd grade, and I swear to God, she fucking dropped it on the floor. But she's adamant it was me that dropped it. And to this day, we still fucking argue about who dropped the fucking apple crisp. To this day. So real quick, I did this with Jim last week. I'm gonna do it with you. You have to blindly rank these sides. Okay.
Oh man. All right.
Blindly rank 1 through 5. You don't know what's coming. Okay.
Let's go.
Green bean casserole.
5.
Okay. The cranberry relish shit.
4.
Ooh. Stuffing.
I'll go 2 because I got to hear the others.
Cornbread.
3.
That leaves mashed potatoes as 1.
Hell yeah, mashed potatoes number 1, baby.
You're a big mashed potatoes guy?
Oh yeah, love it.
You're big.
That's like the staple from I have family generational recipes, and I just mentioned my sweet potato casserole. It's basically the next best thing.
So we're not here to talk about food. We're obviously here to talk about the NFL. But the big news of the week is this whole Lane Kiffin shit going on.
Yep.
Really interested to hear your take of the Lane Kiffin stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what are we talking here? Lane Kiffin walked out on a playoff-bound now Ole Miss season in school history for the 3rd highest paycheck in the sport and a tiger on his polo. There's a few things here I could say. I mean, but multiple things can be true, right? He was probably the best thing to happen to Ole Miss football to make them relevant. So feel good story of that point, right? But as an Ole Miss fan, what are you going to remember? The wins that he brought or that he bailed before playoffs. Now, the one thing I do have to think about when, you kind of talk about that kind of stuff is this system, the NCAA system, encourages this. Recruiting, calendar, portal timing, early signing, all those periods, force schools and coaches to move in November, early December, or get left behind, right? So, when you're really kind of looking at it, I can't really blame him for going forward. I mean, what's he going to at the end of the day here, right? He's, it's going to set a lot of precedents for a lot of things coming up, though, right? I mean, this is definitely going to show where loyalty lies with the system and what it is these days. We're talking about money in his pocket, to get NIL recruiting done, come the new year, right? Once that time hits, we're talking, just all these types of things in terms of, where he's actually going to, how this is going to shift everything. I mean, what does loyalty look like now? This is the biggest ripple in the SEC since, his predecessor before him came to LSU. There's just a lot with all that is going to kind of just accentuate itself a little bit. But I mean, he's going to a proven system where they've won national titles, right? And he brings a winning record with him. It's they're going to get the full Lane Kiffin experience. I'm going to be interested what kind of tweet he sends out at some point, right? You're going to see some of that kind of stuff come out personality wise. But again, the first thing I thought of was just the system encourages this. I don't know where to really point a finger in terms of things. He obviously still wanted to coach his kids through the playoffs and stand by them, and obviously the AD blocked them, which I get it. It's kind of like, any other corporate job. Like, you leave for a competitor, they cut you, then and there. Yeah, you're done. So, I mean, he made his bed. There's a lot of big emotions around it, but like, he's getting paid. He comes with, winning record. He gave Ole Miss their first 11-win regular season in history. He revived that program and probably his own career there. So, leaving before the playoffs sucks. To a direct SEC rival also is going to burn a lot of people that are, very big on the Ole Miss alum. But this is I don't really look at this as like a Lane Kiffin problem. This is really just centered around, I think, an NCAA problem. I think it's the timing of a lot of things that you can't blame them in terms of, where things are going in terms of optics. Leaving before the college football playoffs really sucks. But, Ole Miss gave him the platform, money, support, and he walks away. And then, but is this just business, or did he actually cross the line by leaving, a playoff team right now? I just don't. I see it as kind of more of a calendar structure, I guess, and more of like how I'm thinking of things.
I look at it like this: like, at the end of the day, this is a business. Okay, as much as everyone wants to say sports and everything, this is a business, and all these fans that are like bitching about him, yelling at him, cursing him. If in your job, if you had a chance to go to a competitor and get significantly more money, you would go. That's the end of the day. You would go. Now, I know everyone's saying like they were offering him like the same amount of money at Ole Miss, but when you look at the buyout, which is like the big thing in this, because you want to have a buyout, you want to be covered if you get let go. The buyout at LSU is more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and LSU is going to have more revenue in the the NIL stuff than Ole Miss.
Right.
So, to me, it makes sense. And you hit the nail on the head. The timing sucks. This is a timing problem.
Yeah.
You look at like Tulane in North Texas. Probably whoever wins that game is going to be in the college football playoffs.
Right.
And their coaches are gone too.
Yeah.
And the portal, these bowl games are coming, and we don't know who's in the portal, who's playing. Kids could be leaving. It's the whole calendar of college football has to be reset.
Yep.
Now, I agree where if a kid is going to go to school A, is at school A and going to transfer to school B and doesn't want to get hurt playing in the bowl, I get that, dude.
Yeah.
I get that. Totally get that. I think Ole Miss was right not to let him coach, but it is kind of weird. They're letting their offensive coordinator who left with him come back to coach
right
in the for the college football playoffs. I don't know. The whole thing to me was just kind of weird. Like it's unrealistic because if you're there and coaching, you're going to recruit those kids and they want to save all those kids.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think the defensive coordinator, I think that to hire him right away, I think that's the ultimate panic hire.
Yes, I agree.
But then again,
it was under a week. I mean, come on. Like
they kind of want to protect themselves against what's going on with Penn State. When you look at what's going on with Penn State, I don't know if you heard this, but like they tried to get everyone. They're banking on DeBoer losing in the Iron Bowl to put the 4-court press on him. That didn't happen. Lincoln Riley pulled himself out of the conversation saying, hey, I'm done. Now they're going after the BYU guy.
Right.
And I found out that the CEO of Crumble Cookie went to BYU.
No.
And he went and he talked to the coach at BYU, convinced him to stay. Now Penn State is all the way down on Willie Fritz, who's been a good coach. Tulane, Houston, been good. But is that really the guy at Penn State that's going to elevate your program? That's going to be better than Franklin?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what you have to do.
Well, Virginia Tech got richer. I mean,
Dude,
we
Virginia
ended
Tech
up
is,
with Franklin. Like, come on.
like,
And
and,
how many Penn State commits decommitted and now are looking at Virginia Tech now? I mean,
but
that's
the
crazy.
thing is he went from competing against, and no disrespect to the ACC,
Oh yeah. No, I get it.
from Ohio State and Michigan. Now he's competing against Mario Cristobal. You know what I mean? Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend, Manny Diaz. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it.
I could tell you right away, I'm going to be betting Virginia Tech to make the college football playoffs next year.
Yeah,
More
than 6 wins for sure.
Okay, it is freezing here in fucking Chicago. It is so fucking cold. Like, I cranked my heat up to 70. It takes forever for this place to get warmed up. I am freezing my ass off.
We're getting snow for our first snow in Denver all season. It's actually the longest drought of snow, and it's showing up tonight. So yeah, I feel you on the cold.
I did F up the intro. I got excited Dave was here. I played I played the Diamond Bets intro instead of the show intro. That's on my bad. Dude, we got so much snow on Saturday here. We got an insane amount of fucking snow. And then I had to drive back on Sunday, and there was stretches that was a little shitty, but Saturday was brutal. And then we got snow last night, and we're supposed to get more snow tonight. Dude, we were just getting shit on here in the Chicagoland area.
Oh, trust me, me and my girl had to bear the brunt of that flying back from LA because our plane was coming back from Chicago, and it couldn't make its way out of Chicago to get to us. It was going to be delayed until 9 o'clock or something of that nature. And instead, I went ahead and I flipped us to a different earlier flight, but we were still hamstrung in the airport for about 4 hours.
At LAX?
Yep.
So, dude, that's the difference between me and you. I was stranded at LAX once. I went into the Chili's 2 bar. I sat next to this old timer, and I'm like looking at this dude. This is like 10, 15 years ago. I'm like, son of a bitch, I know this fucking guy. You know what I mean? I know this fucking guy. So I'm like looking at him, I start talking to him a little bit, and I'm like, I know this fucking guy. It took me like 20 minutes talking to him. It was fucking Nick Nolte, dude, the actor.
Oh shit.
So I was trying to get back to Chicago. He was trying to get to Hawaii. So him and I were doing Jaeger bombs at the Chili's 2 bar for our 2-hour layover. I got so drunk with Nick Nolte. It was great, dude.
That's awesome.
That's what I do during my layovers. I'm not big time. I'm not.
I mean,
like you, man.
I wasn't a layover. That's just trying to get home. So we went.
Oh no, I was trying. Sorry. I was trying to get home too. Like I was flying back. I was flying back from Fresno, and Fresno, you have to fly in a crop duster.
Yeah.
Like the propeller stuff from Fresno to LA, and then you have like the big journey back. But not here to talk about this. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about our takeaway. What's your takeaway, man? What's your takeaway from the week, my friend?
I mean, from the week, it's officially separation season. I mean, that's what my ultimate headliner is, right? Like week 13, in the NFL, it wasn't about upsets. It was about separation. Teams with real identities pushed forward, and teams without one got exposed, right? I'll say that I'll remind everybody that the Bills let everybody know why they're the AFC team nobody wants in January, right? And the 49ers also showed that, they have a pretty complete roster as well. Eagles hit the danger zone finally, right? We all finally saw that catch up to them as, I was kind of seeing that kind of happen. The offense looks predictable. Defense is kind of leaky. And, that's a trend. Dolphins, Lions, Cowboys are good. Little flaws here and there. But yeah, I think, week 13, my takeaway was that the real contenders, are really starting to show up a little bit in terms of where we're going. It was a stress test for everybody, right? So, I think everybody's fighting to be interesting and not dangerous, in some ways out there. I think there's a lot of teams that are on the outside looking in. I found it really interesting. AFC North, Bengals, and them showing up. I mean, they still have an outside shot of taking that division. Like It's unbelievable to me just how bad that division is that they're still in it. Burrow hasn't even been here for 8 weeks. Like,
that division is so shitty. It's funny.
yeah, that's my point.
I mean, two of them play, and whoever loses that game is probably not going to make the playoffs this week between the Steelers and the Ravens. My takeaway: all I've heard this week is people talking about the Carolina Panthers, pumping the Carolina Panthers, that they could win the South, that they could actually make noise in the playoffs.
Right.
Can we pump the brakes? Like, what have they done? Can we just take a step back and look at it? They're 7-6. They have a point differential. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Of -50. That's their point differential on the year.
Damn.
So with that being said, I'm a big thing on the Pythagorean win total. That's how I do a lot of my totals in the offseason.
Sure.
Right now, their record, they should be 5-8. So they're overachieving by 2. That generally means if a team is overachieving by 1 or more, they're due for regression that season. DVOA has them as the 25th best team in the league, behind the Giants, who have already been eliminated from the playoffs, the Dolphins, Commanders, and Cardinals.
Yep.
EFF has them 25th as well, behind the Jets and the Browns. This is not a good football team. Yeah, they've won a couple of games. And let's be real, those wins over the Rams and Packers, those are what I called scheduled losses. You know what I mean? When you kind of sit back, see what's going on in the season. Football is hard, and to maintain winning is very hard. Those were scheduled losses for those teams. This roster has holes everywhere. Bryce Young is too small.
Been saying it for like 5 years. Yeah.
To be a long-term starter in the league. Now, if the Panthers sneak into the playoffs, they're going to be exactly where the Dolphins are right now in a couple of years, forced to extend a quarterback they should not, and they're stuck with them.
Yep.
And the worst part, this 2027 draft class is loaded with quarterback talent. But if Carolina breaks into the postseason, congratulations. Now you're stuck with Bryce Young for another 5 years. Just like Miami is stuck with Tua. And I'm not buying the Panthers stock at all. Maybe later, but like right now, no, there's no way I'm buying Panthers stock. Them making the playoffs would be the worst thing that happened to the franchise, because you're going to be stuck with Young for 5 more years. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't make the playoffs this year, give him 1 more year, then next year you do the reset, get the rookie quarterback, let him walk.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know, it just doesn't make any sense why everyone's so excited by this team. Let's go.
Well, you know, the contrarians want to be right, is what you're talking about there, right? Like, they probably are like, hey, you know, they're not as bad as they look on paper, right? And so being 2 games above, you know, where you're just, you know, modeling it, right? You know, they're and getting a win like they did over the weekend, you know, they're like, see, this is what I'm talking about. They, you know, they're better than that.
But we all know football comes down to like what, 2 to 5 plays.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And when Stafford has 2 red zone turnovers, one of them was a pick 6.
Yeah.
You know what? If you're playing a team with a pulse, you're not going to win that game.
Right.
So let's go ahead. Let's talk some bets. But before we do that, let's go ahead and let's see how we did last week. Disappointing 2-4 last week with Jim hitting the Packers plus 137 on the money line, but losing the Lions and Packers under 48.5 and the Ravens and Bengals over 52. Old Uncle Rico hit the Cowboys plus 3.5, lost the Lions minus 2.5, and Waddle over 60.5 receiving yards. For the season, we are 44, 31, and 3. And that Jalen Waddle bet should have hit. Tua missed him when he was wide the fuck open, streaking down the field. Because I was driving, the radio station, the Sirius Dolphins feed I was listening to, the guy made it sound like the worst throw ever. Our boy, let's make some money. I like the Jets and the Vikings this week. Okay, let's see if David and I have any thoughts in that game. We're going to kick off with the Thursday night game. We each have a bet in that. What's your bet, my friend?
Yeah, so I'm leading out with that game, looking at Detroit -3. That's what I'm taking for the game. So as most of y'all know, I modeled it. I have a predictive model, and I'm showing a predictive model of Detroit winning by better than a touchdown. My model has them at -8, giving us a 5-point edge versus the market. So the way that I look at this is, the narrative is simple that everybody's going to look at this, right? Everybody's on Cowboys heavy after their recent run, and I guess, the quote unquote America's team effect, right? So looking at Dallas +3 with the points, as the better QB, better defensive side, all those types of things and why people are grabbing the points, if you will. But, make no mistake about it, the Lions are a top tier offense by most efficiency metrics, especially by my DeVoe rankings and things like this. So they have a very balanced run pass, strong O-line, excellent early down success. Cowboys defense has improved, obviously, since midseason with the Quinnen Williams trade, better versus the run versus, fewer explosives, if you will. But indoors on fast turf, Detroit's protection, play action sequencing is really going to neutralize a lot of that pass rush. My DeVoe ranking probably actually reflects that in the -8 reflection of my number here. But Detroit defense is, very quietly decent compared to their up and down 1-4 streak against the spread over recent weeks, if you will. But, they're around the league average to slightly above in key defensive metrics such as third down rate, pressure volume. And they don't have to exactly shut down Dallas. They just need enough stops to let their offense show the edge over the 60 minutes of the game here. So, everything in this narrative screams Cowboys, hot team, improved defense, Lions slipping, right? And that's exactly how you end up with 80-20 splits on the road dog. But, basically, the way that I look at this is Lions still great as a top 5 offense. Their home field edge at Ford Field is going to be significant in a prime dome game. Dallas has been really cushy at, with some home games here. They're going on the road here. But their offensive spike has also been aided by short fields and turnovers, right? So I don't think they're going to see that in this game here. Detroit can protect the ball, bully them a little bit harder in the trenches than people are probably giving them credit for. And if the Lions sustain drives and avoid the early turnovers, we're really live for the, better than a touchdown result that I'm talking about here. So, the way, that I'm looking at this from a DeVoe metric perspective, again, like I mentioned, top 5 overall, rushing offense, number 5th in the league, DeVoe, passing, number 9, rushing defense, number 7. Meanwhile, on the flip side, just, in terms of recency performance, Cowboys still rushing defense, number 28th overall, passing defense, number 29. I really think the Lions defense at home is going to show out here. So, with a 5-point model edge, very reasonable to say that my cover probability is better than 65% here, and something that I really give great confidence to, in the, weighted metrics of mine. So Detroit -3, start out the week.
All right, couple questions. David, you have talked betting money line on here a lot and not taking the spread. Why are you taking the -3 and not just the money line of -148?
So when I take the money line, I do that for a lot of dogs, right? And so the way that I always talk about this being a money line sport in a spread sport game is the fact that when you have a dog that's less than a touchdown at +6 or less, right? So less than +7. When you get to those kind of rounded figures, if you will, of where you're really going to have separation in the market and really have an edge with the book, I always say take those money lines, the plus money, right? But when you start talking about heavy money lines that start to really play a factor, you're just picking a winner. You play the points. You play the -3. You're only playing -110, type of numbers instead of the -150 that you're probably seeing as a money line, on some book right now. And you're saving yourself money, right? It's money management is what I talk about in terms of when I'm talking about which side to be playing the money line on. In this case, you're talking better than a field goal. With my edge that I'm seeing in terms of my metrics, you're taking that field goal all day over a -150 and you're playing the -110.
Where is the next question? I think the Lions destroy them. What about playing the alt spread -7 or -10?
That's actually something that I, consider as well for myself. At the same time, I like an alt spread in this as well. I definitely think you should look at an alt spread lower than -7. I think somewhere around -5.5, -6 makes sense. Like I said, better than a touchdown is where I'm at. You start to hit that touchdown point, kind of like closer to where my predictive model is hitting, like -8. You're not giving yourself a lot of room. You're getting plus money, plus odds by obviously taking more points there. But at the same time, you're not giving yourself a lot of edge over the book at that point. So, in my opinion, if you're going to take kind of an alt spread, keep it around the -5 mark. Probably no higher than that.
I like that. I guess like with the money line stuff, we talk about this in baseball. Because it's the question, what's the highest money line you'll take? I in baseball try not to go over -125.
Same. Yeah.
Now in
try
football,
to keep it at -120, 130.
Now in
like
football, will you not go like what's like at football?
I still keep it the same. Like I just mentioned,
Okay.
like I won't go higher than -120, 130. I don't see any value in it, especially just from a money management perspective. Again, that's how I kind of play my plays in terms of everything, in terms of my bankroll. And I'm not going to just separate myself and make myself uncomfortable to reach for a higher money line spread than I'm comfortable with sharing my bankroll there. So I try to keep that within reason. But yeah, -120 to 130 is as high as I'll usually go ever. I like my break even point to be lower is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's all about, understanding break even points and everything. My first bet, and I'm going to the same game because some jackass took my bet in this game. I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs over 75.5 rushing yards. Yeah, it's a big number, but I absolutely have to take it. This is the Lions season right here. If they lose this game, they're not making the playoffs. Do or die spot, they're going to lean on Gibbs. Look, he's underperformed last week, but he's got this thing where after he underperforms, he comes back with 100-yard games the last 6 games. So last week, 20 carries on 68 yards in a short week. I fully expect a bounce back week. Dallas, as you mentioned, vulnerable on down ground, 28th DVOA against the run. PFF has them all the way down at 30th against the run. They've improved a lot since the Williams trade. But let's be real. Per PFF, this is going to be the best run blocking unit they have faced. When I look at Gibbs, he's averaging 4.27 yards per carries on outside zone runs, and on man gaps, 8.15 yards per carry. Now, before the Williams trade, they were allowing over 4.5 yards per run against both these run concepts. Now, it significantly has dropped since Williams has got there, but I think that has to do more with the matchups they've had. Detroit is going to lean heavily on the run in this game, especially if St. Brown can't go. So I'm going to lock it in. I'm going to take Jahmyr Gibbs over 75.5 yards running. Next bet, my friend, and I absolutely love this one.
Yeah, so next bet, taking a look at, Steelers at the Ravens, and I'm taking Pittsburgh +6. Again, it's kind of like I just mentioned before, numbers that start to edge up toward that +7 mark. You can pretty much, and I did have kind of like a write-up here to say take +6 or take the money line +225, right? So I'm saying +6 is your better edge here simply because my model shows this as a pick'em game. And so at that point, that's just saying that there's no real edge. You're getting a ton of points as a book edge right here. And, the way that, I kind of look at this is that the line has moved, right? This opened at actually -6.5. It's nudged down to -6 after the early money has already come in after a day or so. So, anytime I kind of look at this stuff from a model perspective, I'm looking at, again, defenses where things lie. Pittsburgh defense still is, really top, what do I want to say, top second tier of the pack, if you will, right? So the rushing defense number 15, their passing defense number 13. I mean, it's up there in terms of overall collective defense. Ravens, on the other hand, same type of rushing defense for themselves, number 16, and passing defense number 24. right? I mean, I know you got a nicked up Rodgers coming into this game, of course, right? But what I'm saying basically is that Ravens are not clearly better on a neutral, and certainly by not almost a touchdown better than Pittsburgh, right? And I think Cincinnati kind of exposed them about that here, on Thanksgiving. So, I know most media and public are on the Ravens side. Early pieces are all lean Baltimore, right? They're all leaning that way, and it's kind of a fade the public contrarian play, if you will, right? But again, I'm on the true contrarian side here. The public wants the Ravens. A lot of analysts want the Ravens. My model is screaming Steelers. And as I kind of look at the matchup in terms of recent form, Steelers just obviously got handled by my Bills, obviously at home, right? And the defense, finally cracked versus a real run game. Ravens are off a really ugly home loss to Cincinnati after a long win streak, which creates a classic, bounce back at home, quote unquote narrative for themselves. But, the Steelers' profile here is that their defense is really still disruptive. Top 5 in volume pressure. Offense, QB play is obviously in the bottom third, but this is where my model is taking a stand. Pittsburgh's defense is going to be better than the Ravens' offense, and it's going to compress that score line more than the market expects. So, I'm using caution against the books opening this as high as 6.5, 7 in some consensus, and seeing that it's been bet down to -5.5 and 6 where it's at. Obviously, I still see +6 on my book, but it's a sharpish appetite for Pittsburgh. And, nearly probably every qualitative handicapper still lands on Baltimore, right? I'm the quantitative one landing on Pittsburgh here. So that's how I'm looking at it. I'm trusting my numbers, taking a controlled shot, and, fading against the Baltimore at home play.
So are you ready to get blown away?
Yeah, let's go.
Now, guess what ATS the dog is in this matchup when Harbaugh against Tomlin?
I don't know, 80%, something in favor of the dog.
1.3% as a dog. If you have just blindly bet the dog in this matchup, you have a 50.4% ROI. Just blindly betting the dog in this matchup, which is just absolutely, positively absurd when you think about it. Just blindly betting the dog. I like this too. Full transparency, I was on this one too, but some jackass took it from me. So next bet, I am going to New York. Give me the New York Football Jets +3. This really comes down to one thing. I'm fading Tua in the cold. It's going to be wet, possibly snow. Numbers back it up. Tua on the road for 48% against the number. On the road in December and January, 30% against the number. When the temperature is below 47 degrees, 40% against the number. And let's talk team quality. PFF has Miami as a 25th ranked team in the league. The Jets 21st. Dolphins' entire offense basically runs through H-in. Jets are 16th DVOA. They're solid PFF run defense. I think they're going to be able to contain H-in and kind of make this offense a little bit uncomfortable, force Tua to kind of beat them. Think back to the matchup. I don't know if you remember this one, but this was one of my matchups that absolutely pissed me the F off early on in Monday Night Football. Started the game, Dolphins drove down, kicked the field goal. Jets had a 12-play drive, 80 yards, down. Brandon Allen was going into the goal line, fumbles the ball at the goal line. Dolphins recovered, scored the touchdown. Jets drove down again. Justin Fields fumbled the ball. Despite that, the Jets outgained Miami by over 100 yards, averaged 7.1 yards per play, kept shooting themselves in the foot, still only lost by 6, and they had a chance to cover late. And in that situation, they were 3-point dogs. Now this is back up in New York. Miami coming up to cold weather, and they're laying 3 again. It just makes no sense to me. I don't hate Taylor at the quarterback of the Jets. He's 63% for his career against the number. He led your Buffalo Bills to the playoffs 7 years ago. 60
And the Hokies, yeah, same in college, yeah.
and 67% ATS as an underdog. Since the Jets traded Gardner and Williams, defense actually has been playing better. Meanwhile, do you care to guess how many passes Tua completed in the second half last week against the lonesome New Orleans Saints?
I think I actually saw that stat pop up at some point, but it was like 5.
Close, dude. Close. 6. 6 completed passes. Tua in the cold. Look, this is a complete
that's a recipe for disaster.
fade for me. Give me the New York Football Jets here, +3. Next bet, my friend.
Yeah, so this is a very small line here, but all right. So we're talking Commanders versus Vikings. Now I'm taking the Commanders on the money line +110. Some books, this line was sitting at like 1.5, right? So that's why you have such a small money line favorite or dog here, right? But there's a lot of like CLV, if you will, if people really kind of get into that area. But my model has the Commanders also better than a touchdown at -8.5. So I'm also saying Washington should be a solid touchdown plus favorite and not such a pick-em-ish game, that the books are kind of laying on this line right now. Narratives like this, right? The Vikings are seen as bad, feisty. They got offensive upside, but a lot of QB inconsistency. Lots of ATS losing as a favorite. Commanders obviously written off as one of the worst defenses in the league. Chaotic offense, and coaching there. But the public picks are pretty split. So there's not a lot amount of, lean Commanders, hate the game kind of sentiment, if you will. My DeVoa gap really, I think, comes from this, right? Washington is bad, but they can move the ball. They throw a ton. They have the weapons, and they face a Vikings D that ranks middle of the pack in most advanced metrics in terms of, pressure and coverage, if you will. Washington's defense, so the scary part, I guess, for anybody listening is that my model is heavily weighting the Vikings offensive struggles here. QB play, turnovers, inefficiency in the red zone. And Washington D is, basically quote unquote, bad, but not this bad, right? So, even though both these teams are kind of, bottom defense, they're not, Commanders are not historically this awful. They played Denver really close down to the wire here, on the recent primetime game, and they could have had it. That was a wide open 2-point conversion if he gets it by that defender. So, I think Washington limits the explosives and gets off the field. My number is really there, and in terms of offensive efficiency gap, that they actually have, a pretty decent defense show up on this. There's been line move in this as well. I think some books actually had Minnesota as the small favorite in some places, and it's starting to trend toward the line becoming more favorite toward Washington on some books. So it's inching toward that way. But I took that as the small favorite early. And yeah, given where my line is, I easily can see the probability north of 60% here as well with my model, to land at better than a touchdown over Minnesota and their QB play.
We have a comment. Let me pull it up right here. Who's playing quarterback for the Vikings? That kid last week was brutal. He was bad.
Pretty sure that's who's playing quarterback.
I thought JJ was back. I thought JJ was going back this week.
Well, even if it's JJ, I haven't seen him really show anything to really impress. Every time I tried to, lobby that kid in my fantasy team, and that went south real fast.
All I know is when I used to do all that stuff with the draft work, I wrote this big thing how he sucked, how he could only throw to one side of the field. People were telling me I don't know shit. And like right now, I'm just doing my victory lap. Just doing my fucking victory lap. Where are you getting your splits for public betting?
I got a few sources, but my main one is usually bookmakersreview.com for the odds.
Okay. My last and final one, I'm taking the Atlanta Falcons plus 7.5. Do I hate my life? Maybe, but I'm taking the Falcons plus 7.5 right here. Here's the reality.
Did I just talk about it being separation? Come on, man.
Here's the reality. Teams coming off a 23-point win or more are a terrible bet. They cover just 47.5% against the spread, negative 7.1% ROI. When they're a road favorite, that dips down to 44.8%, negative 12.4% ROI. When they're laying 7 or more after winning by 23 points or more, 37.3% ATS. This is a classic just letdown spot. I say it all the time. Buying low, selling high. We're selling on Seattle after that shutout win against the Minnesota Vikings, where their quarterback should be playing in the CFL. He should not be playing in the NFL. Atlanta should get Drake London back, which will help this passing game. We need to remember Cousins statistically better indoors than outdoors. Another big mismatch is Sam Darnold versus the Atlanta Falcons pressure. Falcons blitz at the second highest rate in the league. Darnold per PFF is 5th in turnover-worthy plays versus pressure. Under pressure this season, he's completing just 51.5% of his throws with a 6 TD to 7 INT ratio and a negative 0.236 EPA. He struggles badly, and when the pocket collapses, I think Atlanta can make that happen. I also have no idea what Seattle is doing with their run game. When you just put everything in a fucking spreadsheet, there is not one thing besides get stopped for a negative loss, a negative run, that Zach Charbonnet does better than Kenneth Walker. And for the life of me, I do not know why they are continually giving Charbonnet work. I could be a conspiracy guy. Part of me thinks that they're just shitting on Walker for his contract coming up. My boy TC is a huge Seattle fan, so I'm sorry, my friend. I'm taking the Falcons, like I said. I also, Terrell should be able to limit JSN, who's having a great year. Seattle consistently has struggled defending running backs in the passing game. I think Bijan is going to be huge in the passing game. So I
should pick him up in guillotine, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah.
Tell the truth, you're angry because, dude, you're damn right I own Kenneth Walker in fantasy, and I bet him at 95-1 to lead the league in rushing yards. Give him the damn fucking ball, dude. Give Kenneth Walker. Free Kenneth Walker. I'm going to make t-shirts. I'm going to make t-shirts that say free Kenneth Walker, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. So I'm taking the Falcons here plus 7.5. Look, they may not win it, but I think them winning by over 7, I think that is going to be a little bit too much as I'm watching Kansas just let this game slip away against UConn right now. So,
yeah.
David, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy life of going to pumpkin patches and coming on and talking a little shop. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, my friend?
Yeah, thanks for having me as always. Really appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments and for listening, of course. Anybody that ever wants to talk shop, you want to know where my lines are sitting, where my metrics are hitting on certain games, feel free to reach out. Better DP21 as it shows there in the handle, both X and Instagram. You know, happy to talk about anything, anytime. So again, really appreciate you having me on the show, man. Thank you.
Always appreciate you coming on. One of my favorite guests. Make sure to give that man a follow. We'll be back next week with Bryce from the I Need It Sports Pod. Best of luck in your bets, and I'm sure I'll be sending you text messages bitching about something this weekend. So
always.
We'll talk soon, my friend.
All right, buddy. Thank you.